Okay, this is the May 9th meeting. No, what is it?
12th.
June 11th.
Oh, God, I hope not.
June 11th
Okay,
meeting.
let's move the tape back.
June 11th meeting.
It's actually
12th, oh, God. You know, it's summer. Enterprise Oversight Committee, and let's go around the table, and then also this, and the other chairs too, please.
Bernie Hall, Assembly.
Jennifer Johnston,
Tim Steen.
Dick Ray.
Amy Demasi.
George Michaelis, Municipality.
Todd Coles, Port Engineer.
Steve Bucko, Port Director. Jim Eagle, Port Finance Director.
Lon Elliott, CH2M Hill.
Elizabeth Talbot, CH2M Hill.
Eugene Ori, MLP.
Bart Mulder, IUC MLP.
Griff Roush, IEC.
Shannon Ballard, KTVA.
Rick Weller, MLP.
Mark Johnston, MLNP.
Jared Coleman, Anchor QEA.
Barbara Bundy, Anchor QEA.
And Bob Owens with the Municipal Attorney's Office.
great, thank you. So let's start with our monthly report as far as the court.
All right. The report that we've provided, just going to walk through it here. The first item is the task orders that we've approved for CH2M Hill since our last update, and that consists of task order 3, which is the concept design study. That was just approved on the 10th, a couple days ago. The next couple pages of the report is the scope of work. I'm happy to do that now. The purpose of this study is to identify 3 phased alternatives to rehabilitate and or replace terminals 2 and 3. Terminal 2 is where Horizon Lines calls, and Terminal 3 is where TOTE calls. The emphasis of this study is going to be evaluating phasing by temporarily shifting our customers along the wharf south to facilitate the phasing plan. That's not an approach we've studied in detail, so that's really the purpose of this study. The activities that will be undertaken as part of this study will first focus on planning a week-long charrette or workshop, essentially, to work with all of the stakeholders that are associated with the project. And that charrette we're projecting to occur in the week of August 18th. So from now and leading up to that, our first step is to really plan out that week where we'll work on the agenda, reach out to the stakeholders and subject matter experts that are going to participate. We're going to develop a recommended selection criteria by which we're going to evaluate the concepts that come out of this study. We're going to work a communication plan for the charrette, and we're going to interface with Building Safety and Geotechnical Advisory Commission to refine some of our design parameters. That's an important element of our cost estimates that will come out of any concepts that we develop. So that really sets the stage for the charrette, and part of that, just part of the charrette, is developing a few very preliminary phasing options so that we have something to really start the conversation of the charrette, and that will make that more productive, where we start with some alternatives and refine those with our stakeholders. So that sets the stage for the charrette that again will occur there the 3rd week of August. Following the charrette, we'll take those concepts that come out of the charrette, down select 3 of those, the top 3 from the group, and develop those to a 15% design level, something that we can have some budgetary cost estimating confidence in. So that activity will take a couple months, I think, to dial in and get us to a stage where we can exercise the selection criteria to make a recommendation on the preferred alternative, so to speak. So we expect to be in a position to brief the recommended concept plan in early November, and we've targeted the week of November 10th to brief the Mayor and Assembly on the outcome of the concept design study. So I have attached a detailed schedule as well. That's page 4 of the report. This schedule actually includes the other task orders that we've executed to date, task 1 being the project management plan, which is just about ready to wind down at the end of next week. The project management office for the first year, and then concept design study task 3 is detailed with all the milestones along that path from now till November. The task order value for this task is $633,215. The vast majority of that is a lump sum for CH2M Hill and labor, and then reimbursable expenses, actual not to exceed amount of $46,233. So that takes us through task order 3. As we mentioned at the last update, we are still working on task order 4, which is the pile test work plan and NEPA scoping, which we'll get that executed. We anticipate in this next period, and that will be working simultaneously with the concept design study as we move forward towards ultimately executing a pile test program next summer that's in line with the recommended or selected concept that hopefully we can have a decision on it by the end of the year. So that's our strategy with that. There haven't been any scope changes. Everything's on schedule, and that's been provided. The page 5 is a budget update. The changes from the last period are the incorporation of the task order 3 authorized amount. So CH2M Hill's contract amount is currently $3.1 million. Expenditures to date, $153,000. We do have some other expenses that we've authorized. These are costs that we've agreed to cover for equipping the project management office with data cabling and security upgrades that we need to essentially remodel this space for CH2M Hill to occupy. Though that amount is the $60,000 shown, and that's essentially the update. There's no other issues or changes to report.
Any questions?
I have a comment. Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to say I really appreciate, this is exactly what I was looking for. So from last time, I appreciated the time so I could sit down and read it last night and had time to digest it. And from what I'm seeing, everything is on schedule, and I suspect the hiccups come when you start building. But at this point, I like, this is exactly what I like to see. So if you can keep them coming at least the day before, that'd be helpful.
Sure, yeah, no problem. Thanks.
Any other? My only question is just from our previous studies, are we able to glean any information that's going south from any of the previous studies, or are we going to have to really start from scratch on that?
No, you may remember that all 5 from the previous study actually did anticipate some southern phasing. It was, again, there was a component that required Toad and Horizon to ultimately move north to make that phasing happen. But there's definitely value that we can pull from that one. And even the recommended alternative from that study, where we were building the wharf out to get deeper to hopefully reduce life cycle costs of dredging. So there's value that we can pull from a lot of those alternatives to look at phasing that probably requires more southerly adjustments.
And then as far as our permitting, same thing. Are we going to be able to use a lot of that for the permitting? Can we even expedite the permitting because of that, or is it?
Well, that's the permitting entities are going to be involved. We're going to reach out to them and involve them in the charrette so that they start to see the concepts coming together. So there'll be a lot of work in parallel with them, and this task order 4, the pile test program and NEPA scoping also helps to further move those discussions. So,
But in reference to the specific question regarding previous work that was done when we went in and started doing the investigations and all of the test work that we did, yes, that can be used not only for the planning and the design work going forward, but it also can be used as part of the NEPA process, yes.
That's what.
yeah, it's a significant change from our existing permit, regardless. So, We can use a lot of previous information to
Oh,
make
yeah,
that happen.
hopefully we don't start all over from ground
Right,
zero
no,
again.
right.
Yeah, really, this first part is the assessment of the current 1 and 2, slip 1 and 2, and then to bring them up to par, not the extension. The extension is,
No.
you know,
Right.
moving the front of the wharf out.
Well, no. So,
And we're
let me
really,
see if I can clarify.
well, and we're really not getting into, in my understanding, we're really not getting into the sheet pile issue yet.
Okay, so what we're looking at, if you remember, there was 5 different options and
Yeah.
variations that was looked at. We narrowed it down to 3. One of the ones that we had, and we worked to a small degree, was what we're really concentrating on now. And that is, rather than moving the carriers to the north and having to build a dock up there and have them up there for some period of time while the concentrated effort was on the existing terminals 2 and 3 and moving them out. What we're concentrating now on is that one option where we really didn't fully explore it because we didn't think at the time that that was really the way to go. However, after going back and looking at it and also listening to our carriers, there is an awful lot of merit if we can make it work to stay basically where we are as far as the shippers are concerned. But we still, during this investigation, plan on moving out. Okay, so when you see, if we can make this thing work, it's very conceivable that this new plan would have terminals 2 and 3 and possibly 1 moved out. And the reason for that is because it takes care of the depth problem for us. It also allows for further scouring along the face, right down through, so that we don't have as much debris that we have to pick up every silt and everything else that we have to dredge every year. So the ultimate hope is that we can make this whole thing work, still be able to improve the existing docks, terminals, and have them moved out to the new location.
But in terms of the facing for the whole project, what we're talking about right now is really
It's all piles.
is the piles.
It's
Is
piles.
basically
Yes.
a maintenance issue.
There's-
See what needs to be addressed and a plan for
So
addressing.
there's 2 aspects of it.
Yeah.
One is the ongoing maintenance of the existing piles that we have today. We do have a concentration further to the south because we do realize that whatever we do for this construction effort, it will be replacing all the ones that we have right now, probably the 2 and 3. You're going to have to. But the bottom line is that it will not be sheet piles. It will be piles.
Piles, yeah.
And I think we determined pretty much that there's all kinds of piles out there, but the one that we think will give us the longest life and maybe the most stable is a concentration of steel and cement. Okay. Now, that does not mean that we don't have to do some sheet pile work, because remember.
Well, at some
that's-
point. but
At
that's-
some point, yes.
yeah.
But that will be looked at, and that will be part of the phasing.
But basically what's happening is, as opposed to continuing the road we're going down, we're looking south.
Yes.
Which is, that's the big shift.
Do we have to, if we temporarily have to move one of the other customers, either Totem or Horizon, do we have, how are they going to unload if they don't have a crane?
So the concept right now, again, is that they will move, and they will be moving based on where the concentration of effort is as far as the
Yes,
construction.
sure.
But they'll be moving further to the south and back and forth along the existing terminals.
Okay.
So that includes terminals 1, 2, and 3.
Within the reach of existing.
And it's in the
offload
reach
capability.
of the cranes,
Yeah.
yes.
Understand.
Any other questions?
Okay.
We'll come back to the finances of the board when Cindy gets here. And go on to
So
the
you
MLMP.
don't run off.
Right. We'll get out of there anyway.
Thank you, guys.
you guys can come up here and I'll be back.
We passed these out already. Did you augment them?
Yeah, everybody should have received them yesterday.
Yeah. Oh, there's color.
Color,
Yeah.
are we doing 8 by 10 glossies?
If you want.
Does this cost a penny extra?
I had a lot of problems with the old administration with the 8 by 10 glossies.
Yeah, we'll use the Assembly's budget.
Obviously, somebody's got a little too much money.
Which part of the manager's office fund we're gonna use?
There you go.
Second quarter regions.
So when we had the meeting last time, we did not have the outside or our contractor project manager. He is here today with us. He had another commitment and wasn't able to make the last one. But he is here today, so he's also prepared to answer questions. And you all know Eugene. Eugene is wearing several hats. He is filling in as the acting general manager right now, as Jim Trent is in the lower 48. His wife is undergoing some pretty significant surgery as we speak. And so he's filling in as the acting general manager. And as you know, he also is the in-house project manager for this project. So, Eugene?
Thank you, Assembly members. Just like to step through our report today, starting with project background. Items A through D are background and nothing has changed. Contract completion is scheduled to be June 2016. Substantial completion, project completion, September 2016. And like Mr. McKenna said, we have Griff Roush here today to speak to work in progress in as much detail as you'd like.
Thank you. My name is Griff Roush. I'm the Senior Construction Manager for IEC Corporation. We've been retained by MOA MLP to represent them in the EPC execution of the Plant 2A expansion project, 2 LM6000s, one steam turbine generator. The project is on schedule and it is currently underway. There are some photos at the back of this report you can look at after the report. Right now, the project is about 40,000 hours expended. Most of those are engineering design hours. Project dedication was in April, and we've since then received our building permit for the admin building and some of our major equipment foundation permits. We have the admin building basement excavated, and we are starting back up now with our admin building major concrete foundations. And likewise, we are now preparing the equipment pads, the concrete pads that will hold the combustion turbine generators and the once-through steam generators that are adjacent to the admin building, enclosed in the same large overall building. The contractor, Quanta Power out of Houston and Denver, is utilizing local construction firms, Price Waring International, and Roger Tickle as their executing civil contractor at this time, and they're proceeding with the work. We have the General Electric equipment shipment arrived 2 days ago by barge from Seattle, and the barge will be moved into position to start unloading tonight at 6 o'clock. And we hope to have the barge completely unloaded by tomorrow noon. And then Monday morning we will start transporting the General Electric equipment either to the job site or to two of the other laydown areas, secured laydown areas that the contractor and MLP are going to utilize for the storage until it's time to install the equipment at the site. Do you have any questions?
Any questions? I have a couple of questions. One is, are we paying extra for the laydown sites? Okay, so it's municipal land? Okay, because I was thinking we could use the forest.
It's municipal land, and as you may remember, we worked out a deal with Parks and Rec and the contractor where they're using Centennial Park a part of it. And as a result of them being able to use that, the contractor is going in there and making major improvements to it, to the fields and also to the parking area and to some fencing.
Oh, that's on the Glen Highway side of the park. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just had to. The other, when we approved this contract, one of the reasons for Quantum and yourselves is previous experience with getting a facility of this size into a smaller footprint. Have you been involved in a construction project like this in the past where you've had to put something of this size in?
In small areas?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, but I just,
Yes, I can think of about 3 or 4 recently that this size or larger, and of this complexity or larger.
and are you seeing at this point any problems yet that we need to be made aware of as far as?
Oh, ma'am, everything right now is moving forward as planned and scheduled. I'm a firm believer in planning your work and working your plan.
So everything is going well at this point?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions?
Did you want to go over the budget or anything?
Yes. on this.
Okay, past page 2, page 3, let's go to the budget table. This project consists of several contracts, with the EPC construction being the largest at $199 million change, as well as the MOA purchased turbines that are now in town from General Electric. Since our last meeting, we were around $16 million spent on Quanta. We processed a April payment to bring it up to 24.9. GE also has had their ready to ship payments and are pretty much paid out in terms of the equipment. There's a follow-on services, spare parts, and to be billed for shipping of the equipment to pay out the GE contract. Our owner's engineers, less than 50% spent and on track. We MOA purchased the All Builders Risk, leveraging the size of the city and our contacts in the industry to purchase the All Builders Risk. Project financing, AFUDC, and administrative and overhead is tracking schedule, and the balance of other expenses, labor, especially consultants, the initial hillside removal a few years ago is also listed there on the bottom. We are currently on track, less than 25% spent on the overall project. The majority of that being equipment, turbines, and procurement payments to Quanta for equipment on order. On the following page is a Pareto of the specific contract Quanta and its projected payments against the schedule of values submitted in the contract. As you can see, April payment has been paid. The orange bars are payments against projection. The April payment was approximately $2 million more than projection, as Quanta has tightened up procurement schedules with specifically boilers and other large equipment. So they're asking for additional progress payments, but it's currently otherwise tracking the schedule values. As you can see, the big peak here this summer is because that will be site mobilization and or lots of construction in the field, on top of typical progress payments for expensive equipment. And it carries out through winter to next year and tailing off.
Before you change the page on that, what I would like to though explain to you is that this schedule here is based on our schedule for it to basically terminate and the project be done in 30-month period?
30 months.
30 months. However, the contractor has accelerated his schedule because he feels that he can get it done sooner. So that's why you're going to see some disparity between the red and the blue bars. Okay. only because they've accelerated some of their work as a result of that, and we need to pay them their progress payments.
Do we have an incentive bonus program in our contract? I thought we did.
No, there is not, no. No, it's, the cost is the cost. You know, if they go over that cost, they eat it unless we've done something to cause it.
The following chart shows the overall project budget, all contracts included, and it is also tracking planned schedule values against progress. I will note that 30-day net 30 payment ends up being about 45 days in arrears. So really, the strongest indication of actual to projected is April, and the current month and previous month are still in process. Okay, getting into a little bit of detail. On the following page is just a change order recap, which currently we have 2 change orders. One is in the final throes of being signed, which has 4 subcomponents. The first 2 are contractual language cleanup, and 3 and 4 are a net zero change, deleting of a trash screen we did not need in the project for some additional conduit that we would like to have in the project. So change order 1 is a net zero change and currently cost change and currently in process for signature. Change order 2 is hanging out there as a option, bid option at the time of a contract award for a 2nd-year warranty for the plant. Typically you get a 1-year warranty for your power plant of spending a bunch of money, and they have bid a 2nd-year warranty bid option. IEC is analyzing this for us as to whether or not we want to execute this change.
So it's still under discussion.
Other than that, we have.
I would like to just let you know that we are looking at a small change order, relatively small change order, because it appears that with the way that this is being designed, that we could actually reconfigure the basement of the plant and make it more efficient and make more efficient use of it, of that space. And so we are contemplating whether or not we want to enter into that change order. We're evaluating that right now, but that's out there.
And what's the efficiency? What do you?
Well, it gives us more usable space down there for future use.
For dances?
I'm
For
sorry?
what?
For
Yeah.
dances?
Well, you know, there's all kinds of different things you could do, you know, with that plant. And if, instead of having stuff all spread out, wouldn't it be easier, you know, just to kind of consolidate it so you at least have in some future use that you could use it for, you know, yet to be determined.
Doesn't it have to be decided before you pour these footage that you're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah, and so that's why we're working it right now. Yeah.
Mr. Crane?
George, what's the projected change order? Was it 100,000?
6 figures still being analyzed, 100, 200,000 to expand the basement footprint, taking it away from electrical cable pole space. And we're analyzing that right now as you can see.
So no footprint increase, all it is just internal within it, how to reorganize it where it can be more efficient.
Thank you.
If I may, the only thing I'd say is before you come to us with a change order, you should probably give some examples of how you're going to use it. I know you said a future use to be determined,
Well,
but
we're looking at a need right now, so.
okay. As long as you can articulate
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Thank you.
That concludes the financial and change order summary, and we're to questions and pictures of the site. I will say this, it's pretty impressive, the action that's going on in the tight site, as you've made note of, Ms. Johnson, and it's only going to get busier as construction ramps up.
Okay, any
You already got
questions?
some footage for it here, so.
No, we do.
Hopefully
But, I mean,
those aren't gonna-
But this is, this basically has to do with walls.
Not mounts.
I just want to make another comment. Again, I appreciate getting this early, and I liked, though they're laid out a little different, I like the attention to detail. So I really appreciate it, Eugene. And I just encourage future meetings the same. Thanks. The same meeting the day before.
And I just received a text from Lucinda, she's on her way down. Great.
Okay, guys, thanks.
Thank you very much. Probably, just for both the port and ML&P, I'm thinking at some point we should probably have a meeting of the whole as far as the assembly, even though assembly people can come in whenever. And maybe we'll do this fall.
I think that would be more beneficial, especially as we start getting into the charrette process.
Right. And you would have more understand where you're going in the charrettes, and so that would be.
And would have more input, as to
Right.
the stakeholders.
One more comment here. In terms of if you're actually saving time, if you're actually changing the schedule, at some point when you know where you are and how much you're going to change it, you ought to change the schedule so that we can compare actuals with projected. Otherwise, they aren't going to make a lot of sense to us.
This makes them look good.
Well,
But I mean, you got to know what that is before you change it.
right. Well, and then the other thing too is, remember, contractually, they're on the hook for 30 months. It's their initiative to do it faster than that. And so we, our plan, we know in that 30 months what needs to be done and when it needs to be done.
I just want to make the reporting a little more usable.
Okay, well, so.
Anyway,
So.
no emergency.
Okay, all right.
We'll give you all the kudos, and then you can switch. So I asked Ms. Mahoney to come and just give us a report on finances as far as the port. We each received our 2012 and 2013 financial, the port fund report. And as you can see, we've had some interesting years in 2012 and 2013, so I just wanted to find out where we are now in 2014, and is there any concern and what should we be looking for?
Yes, so did you receive a balance sheet as well, or just the income statement? Do you know?
We received, and we just had the audited actual report as far as.
Okay, so the big accounting transaction that occurred in 2013 was the asset impairment transaction that we booked. So what we did was we ended up writing down just under $62 million of our assets in 2012 and previous years. This was recorded as advances to merit. So this year, what we did was we really looked at the total amount that was advanced to merit, which was $302 million. And of that $302 million, $138 million of that was federal funds. And so a portion of our impairment, if you will, was associated with the federal funds grants. Those monies were not ever recorded on our balance sheet. So the portion of the impairment that would have been associated with the federal funds, we didn't actually have to write off. So that's the reason why it's only $62 million, which was really fortunate for us. But also in this analysis, we went through, starting with the $302 million, 168 was federal, and then we, Steve and the group really looked at what assets were good and how much really was placed in service. And we concluded that there was $101 million of assets that we could actually move to a placed in service asset on the balance sheet. And so that was, that all occurred on our balance sheet this year. And as you know, in looking at the finances, the indication of the financial position is your net assets. So on a bottom line basis, our net assets decreased by that $61 million. The other large transaction that occurred in 2013 when comparing to 2012 is we converted our commercial paper program to a loan that matures in 2016. So what that did is it moved it from a current liability to a longer-term liability. So it's just in a different place, if you will, on the balance sheet. Also, as we go through and we look at the debt and evaluate it, we look at the financial performance, mostly the cash flow that is generated by the port. And so we're always looking at the debt capacity of the port. Converting it from a commercial paper that we were flipping like every 180 days, truthfully made me nervous because of the legal aspects. So taking it to, a note now that matures out in 2016 takes a lot of that nervousness away because, we're locked in.
And it's still a hybrid of sorts, isn't it?
Well, it's a loan that expires in 2013, and the interest rate is based on the monthly LIBOR plus 85 basis points.
You mean 2016?
I'm sorry, 2016. Yeah, and it's a fluctuating interest rate, and it's been averaging around 1% or less. So it's still very, very economical. Now when we get out to 2016, then we will be faced with what funding source we will use to pay off the full loan. So hopefully by then, we'll have some more grants from the state of Alaska, and then we'll also be able to evaluate converting it into a long-term revenue bond. So those are some of our choices there. And in regard to the overall performance, excluding these two major write-offs, when we compare it to the performance, when we compare it to budget, the revenues for 2013 did come in $2.7 million under budget, and the biggest operational reason for that is the wharfage, the liquid. Fuel is lower. There were 4 or 5 of those tankers compared to an average of 8 or 9. But in terms of talking with the port, they believe that number will go up this year as a result of what's going on with Flint Hills. The port did a good job managing its expenses in 2013. Of course, the biggest piece of it was less legal expenses than budgeted, and that was mostly due to just deferring a lot of those costs to this year. But also, the port, we've had a lot of conversations internally about the importance of maintaining high cash flow, because the cash flow is what drives the debt capacity, and it's really critical that we have that as high as possible for being able to get additional debt in the future. So they didn't fill a position. They worked really hard in terms of reducing the costs associated with the Doyon security contract, so my kudos to them for that. So I'm thinking that, based on my conversation with Jim, that 14 will be a better operating income year than 2013, which will help performance and debt.
Any questions?
There's still low fuel. We're still not having as much fuel go through the port as we expected because of the reduction from the airport.
It's my understanding, and Steve should address this, that we expect it to go up this year because of what's happening with Flint Hills.
In fact, it's beginning to creep up now, and the reason why the fuel, that fuel, particularly for the airport, is most of it came from Flint Hills, and it went through the valve yard to ASIG, who purchases the fuel and pushes it out to the airport. The valve yard fee, the tariff that we charge there is much lower than bringing it over the dock, that tariff fee. Now, since the refinery's closed in North Pole and the demand has stayed the same, the fuel's got to come from somewhere else. And now it's coming over the dock. Yeah, so we're beginning to see that bump now. In fact, we're on the second tanker that we didn't expect this year, is due in on Friday with 360,000 barrels, all for the airport. So we're beginning to see that turnaround on the fuel side. Usually what's bad for the railroad is bad for the port. This is one of those instances where we're getting a little bit of a benefit because the source of supply is different now. It's not over land, it's over the water.
Thank you. Sorry, I don't have the financials in front of me, but when you were talking, they came in 2.7 million under projected revenues. With respect to the projected expenditures for 2013, where did they end up? Did they end up under? Did they end up at projected budget for expenditures? Were they over?
Oh, for expenditures, well, we recorded the $61 million write-off
Right.
as an extraordinary expense.
Sure.
So we didn't budget for that, so
Right.
obviously that was
That was the big driver.
really a big driver, but.
Was it beyond that though?
Let me see. I think, well, on an overall basis, excluding that, expenditures were under budget. Okay.
That's what I was going for.
Right, they were under budget due to less legal fees. We deferred the work on Ship Creek. We didn't hire somebody, a marketing person, and the Doyon contract came in lower than budget.
Okay, and excluding that 61,
It's
62
still
million,
lower.
do you have any idea how much lower?
Yeah, it is,
I could answer it if I had it, but I don't.
yeah, I would have to do the math. I'll send it to you.
Okay, that's it, thank you.
Do you know right off the bat, Jim? Do you-
Under budgeted, we were a little under $2 million in expenses.
2 million?
Because I thought you ended up flat for the year, so
Right,
you,
yeah.
and since you were, your revenues were by that much, I thought you were.
I mean, operating income was negative, but your revenue was less your expenses.
That answers my question.
Any other questions? I have a question as far as, so we've written off the 62. With our assets, with what has been done with previous port expansion, and I can't remember, I mean, when did we apply that asset to, and when do we start depreciating that, or do we not depreciate it until we've done the full port expansion?
Okay, so it's my understanding that the assets that were good assets that were actually placed in service was based on the work that was done by AIC. Right?
I think
Yes.
the land.
Yes, and so the
land that was added.
the
Yeah.
land that was added is a portion, a large portion of the 101 million.
Right.
And the amount that was impaired was mostly the work that was done by QAP.
Okay.
Was that your question?
Kind of, yeah, I'm just sort of, I'm looking down the line when we do whatever we're gonna do with the port. I mean, I guess we don't need to depreciate the land at this point. Because it was, because it was the pilings that would have been the construction that would have been depreciated, so we're fine on that right now, is that correct? We're not depreciating any.
Well, the assets that we placed in service for the work that was done by AIC, we will begin depreciating
Appreciate,
that
okay,
this year.
that's.
And so that should drive the depreciation up significantly.
That's my question.
Right, and then we will soon, and I don't know if it will happen this year, but we will soon get to the point where your net income will be very negative
Yeah,
all the time, which
because
is the reason why the cash flow is what is really important to look at in regard to the port. And it'll be just like Civic Ventures. The way that is, it's upside down because you don't have enough operating revenue to offset the depreciation associated
Yeah.
with denying a center.
Right.
Same thing.
Any other questions? Okay, well, thank you.
We're done.
Yeah.
Meeting adjourned?
Oh, yeah. Sorry.